I apologize. I'm so sorry. I I normally don't do um, content talking about race or racial issues. Um, I have certain problems with certain people who like to talk about that all the time, and it's like they almost make a business of it as opposed to just being honest and just informing people. And it sort of devalues things because when you're artificially making everything about race, you are enabling and empowering right wing propagandists to present an argument that the thing you're talking about is not really a thing. Racism is not a thing. It's solved. We don't have to worry about that now. We had a black president, blah, blah, blah. Um, I mean, if they constantly have material that they can present to the audience of, look at how they're saying this police officer is racist with no evidence whatsoever, and they keep, you keep giving them all this material, then their audience, the only thing they know about racism is in terms of it being fake and something being exploited for profit. So then when you want to have a serious conversation about racism, it becomes problematic. So let's have a serious conversation about racism. Um, Not necessarily about racism, but it's race related. However you want to regard it. So in the context of DEI and the H1B visa program, I here am a person who has direct knowledge about the realities of DEI and H1B. So Elon Musk, who was an illegal immigrant, has now joined a cult that is all concerned about immigrants, except when it's immigrants that have come to take our jobs, our actual jobs, right? They pretend like, you know, these Mexicans that are coming in and you know, doing these labor jobs, picking fruits or whatever, that that's the jobs that Americans want, right? Right, because that's all in a great country like America, that's all we're capable of doing is picking fruit. There's so much of us that's the jobs we're looking for, right? We certainly don't want any type of engineering jobs, right? Because we're dumb. Our culture's dumb. We make fun of being a nerd, and the cool guys is celebrate, right? You saw Vivek Ramaswamy's quote. Let me tell you the reality, and let me tell you the truth. I am that highly skilled engineer that they talk about that we don't have here, we don't have enough of. Um, I'm also a person who has had my job taken away by these H1B visa programs. So let me tell you a little secret that people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy won't want to tell you. Throughout most of my career, a majority of the people on my team have been Indians. I've worked for some of the top corporations in America, global corporations. So, companies that's very hard to get into. The people that I work with are, these Ivy League. I don't have any degree, and that's an important factor. But the people I work with, these are like Harvard guys or whatever, and these are my colleagues, right? Some would automatically say, well, that's that DEI thing, right? I'm getting jobs I'm not really qualified for. You would be mistaken. I'm the nerdy kid, right? That you don't want to talk about America. People they don't value education. It's other cultures. Well, actually, I'm not. I wasn't born in America, right? So I guess I'm coming from one of those cultures, right? So I was the guy who was taking physics class, college physics class for free while I was still in high school. what was it, my physics teacher, she was teaching, my physics teacher in high school was teaching a college course, and I love physics so much that I actually was attending her class for free. That was me, the nerd, right? They talk about, Americans, we're just dumb and whatever, whatever. That's why I need to bring in the H1B. Well, here I am, a citizen of America. I'm an American who was the nerd in a physics class in high school, right? And that kind of behavior continued throughout my career. When I started working, nobody worked harder than me. 16-hour days was normal for me. A lot of days after work, people go for beers, and I'm like, "Hey man, hoop squad's in the house." Um, After work, people are going for beers, and I'm a friendly guy. I like to hang out. I'm in the office. I'm always smiling. Even on my worst day, I might make a joke. The same way you guys see, like when I joke around on the channel. That's how I am. People know me. I'm always smiling, always making jokes. So I would love to go hang out at the bar, but when I was in my young 20s, maybe early 30s, starting out my career, I was the one who stayed in the office because I'm trying to get stuff done. I want to finish up this project, right? And then a lot of time when I leave work, where was I going? I was going straight home to do more work, or I mentioned that I'm competing with people with Ivy League degrees and I don't have a degree, but I'm educated, right? The thing is to be educated. It's not about how you get educated, it's about being educated. I'm highly educated. What did I do? I went online, I looked at the college, I looked at some of the top colleges, right? I looked up their I forgot what do you call it, but there's a thing where you can see what what books they're going to use. So basically I figured out what books that they were using for their classes, and I would just buy the books. So I was reading the same books that these people were reading in college, but I just paid the cost of the book and made the sacrifice because it wasn't easy. I do have the personality and mindset to grind through on my own. And this is before we had all the social media stuff, right? This is so a lot of stuff I was on my own. Now you can join a forum. There's so many resources. But back then, I was just, I leave from work, I come home. Well, first of all, on the train, I got my book in my hand. I'm reading, trying to pick up new skills. I get home. I'm in a basement apartment in Brooklyn with bugs all over the place. I don't have any furniture. I'm sitting on my bed with my laptop, and I'm like, practicing stuff, or I'm reading books, always reading, always trying to, increase my skill set. And as a result of that, I moved up the ladder very quickly, man. My first job, I got the job really easily. I just walked up to a fancy building, and I guess that's that DEI, right? I walked up to a fancy building, and the questions they were asking me as a nerd, it was easy. In my mind, I was like, "That's all you got?" Not even like an arrogance. It's just like literally, I'm just like, "This is like basic stuff." To me, obviously, I'm not gonna present that to them, but it was easy for me, and I blew through that interview. They made me a job offer 10,000 more than I was asking for because I was some young kid from the Caribbean. I didn't even know what I was worth. I don't know anything. I don't have any connections, right? So I'm the pull yourself up from your bootstraps guy, right? So we're gonna pierce the bullshit that certain people like to talk about. I pulled myself up by motherfucking bootstraps, right? Highly educated. I grinded through. They like to talk about, oh, college is a scam or whatever. Okay, well, I self-educated, right? And I got the job. But within a year or so, because I was always learning, I was always trying to, absorb more information. So I outgrew that job in about a year. And I quickly moved up to a much higher position that maybe normal people would take 5 years to get to. And I was there in like a year. I remember my colleagues, like they were inspired by me because I left them behind. Because while they were chilling, I was grinding. I'm not saying everybody, and that's the thing. These hustle bro people like to talk about like this is the way that you're supposed to be. This is not the way you're supposed to be. You should not have to do what I did just to survive, right? If you really want a lot in life and you want a big house and whatever, then absolutely. But normal people should not have to be doing 16-hour days and grinding and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't put some effort in, but I went way overkill. I remember a lot of the times when I left the office, it was dark. I remember I used to hear the dump trucks outside. That's because they pick up the trash late at night. That should not be the normal thing. What if I wanted to raise a family? I sacrificed all that. I sacrificed family and relationships all in the grind, just my ambition. And I mean, part of it's also because I came from, sorry about this dude over here. Yeah, okay. Uh-huh. Um, so coming from poverty, that was one of the things that motivated me because I was always insecure financially. I always wanted to make sure that, I made enough money that I didn't have to worry about, the bills and the rent and all that kind of stuff. So that was part of what was driving me. Also, a lot of it's cultural. But let's get to the DEI stuff, right? And the H-1B visas. So in spite of all that hard work, one second, I got allergies. So in spite of all that hard work, um, I many times in my career, no, I shouldn't say many, multiple times in my career, I had a hard time finding work, such that two times in my life I started thinking about the possibility of being homeless. This is after working six-figure jobs, top companies, and being highly skilled. I mean, wherever I go, I get promoted, I move up the ladder because I'm working like 10 times harder than the other people. A lot of people that I work with, I think ironically, their degrees became a handicap. It's like they get a degree and then they just feel like they're entitled, like, oh, I have a degree, so you get a degree and then you get the job, everything is good. Meanwhile, I'm just grinding and grinding and um, always trying to grow and trying to go 110% while they're more settled in, which that's how it should be, right? You shouldn't have to do what I was doing. But the reality is that's what I was doing, which is why I was able to succeed and move past them without even having the degree. But proof that this DEI narrative is nonsense is in the fact that a highly valuable person like myself, with the skills that I had, with that kind of mindset, anywhere I go, I'm excelling. Um, I should never have a problem finding jobs, especially with the narrative that we don't have enough highly skilled people, right? If we don't have enough highly skilled people, that we got to be bringing people from another country, why on earth should any American who's highly skilled ever have to worry about a job, right? They should be dying to hire. You know what I mean? Like the minute you look at, oh, come on, like, it should never be an issue. Why should someone like me get to the point of six figures multiple times and then watch my savings account drain to nothing and then have to be thinking about, you know, because I always thought to myself, I'm grown. I don't want to have to go live with family. I'm a grown man. Like I don't want to. That's a conversation I had internally. I don't want to. I don't want to like go. I'm gonna go try to live with an aunt or a family member or something like that. So I'm just like, listen, either you figure it out or I don't know what you're gonna do. You're gonna maybe rent a room or. And so I had that conversation twice in my life. Why? Why would a person like me ever have to go anywhere remotely close to that, right? If the narrative about DEI is true, right? If the narrative about H-1B visa is true, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, think about what I represent. Extremely hardworking, extremely skilled, and I'm someone, team player. Wherever I work, I get along with everybody. So I'm a great member of a team. Like, some people they have like personality issues where they may be very skilled, but they kind of like grumpy or no. I'm the one who, bringing a smile to my coworkers' faces. I try to help people when I can. So I'm a good team member, very skilled, very motivated in a country that supposedly doesn't have enough skilled people. Why is it that I would have multiple times where I'm looking for a job, I can't find a job? If DEI, what happened? Where was my DEI? Right? If DEI is what they claim it is, then why the fuck would I have to be in this situation multiple times in my life? The other thing is, most of the jobs that I've had in my career, I was a minority, but not in the way that you might think. Most of the people on my team had a similar complexion, similar skin to me. However, the reason that I was a minority is because they're Indians. Indians. 95% of the people on my teams have been Indians. Many jobs has been like that. I worked for a company where it was like that. It was like the whole company. The CEO was Indian. All the people were Indian. Um, so I might be like the only citizen there, right? So let's just think logically. If there's so many of these H1B visa people that are working these jobs, the jobs that I would take, logically, whenever I was having a problem finding work, part of the reason had to be that they were in the jobs that I could have had, right? They took my spot, right? So I was here domestically as the local talent, the Steve Urkel guy that Ramaswamy wants to talk about, the pull yourself up by your bootstraps guy, right? The self-sufficient, don't depend on anybody, no entitlement, grind. I was that guy, right? And yet there was no DEI to save me. But in all the companies that I would have worked at, I guarantee you there were H1B visa people. They had a job, right? They had a job. They were good. Every time I'm out of work, I know that the H1B visa people, they're there because they dominate. I'm the exception. So think about that. If it's an exception for them to actually hire an American, right? Because it's so hard to find good, like, then what explains my experience, right? Even listen, when I get a job, right? When I actually get hired, like I'm not, you know, um, patting myself on the back or whatever, but I'm just being real with you. Whenever I get a job, the scenario is usually this. It's usually the same. The company goes through so many people, right? They go through so many people before they actually end up picking me, right? So the DEI narrative out the window, right? Because what typically happens, it's not a matter of just like people not having skills. They'll have people with skills, but a lot of times what'll happen is there are personality issues, there are communication issues. Because you have somebody who's like super smart and really skilled, but then they go on an interview and no eye contact, or just they don't seem very friendly. And all these things matter, right? They're looking at somebody that they want to you know work with, and you're gonna spend so many hours every day. So they're not just looking at your skills; they're looking at your personality. I come in there and I'm firm handshake, eye contact, I'll make them laugh in the interview. So it's, I'm bringing all of that, but yet multiple times I was out of work for so long. I was out of work for one time over a year. So I'll get a job, make so much money, bank account fat, and then something happens and I lose that job, and then um for some reason no one's hiring, and again, I'm always above and beyond, like in terms of how I search and how aggressively I do it. um I think the reality is that what they're doing is they're screwing over Americans and trying to, and this goes right back to slavery, right? A core principle of America, unfortunately, is the eternal search for cheap labor. That's what slavery was all about. The eternal search for cheap labor, right? That didn't go away, it only expanded. So the latest scheme is, oh, we don't have enough qualified people because Americans are too dumb and blah 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 blah. So we have to bring in these H1B. No. And then they want to scam you and distract you with Mexicans. Oh, the Mexicans, they're the ones coming in taking the job. Oh, you got to get these Mexicans out of here. It's a magician trick. Don't look over here, look over here, right? Don't worry about what we're doing with the H1B. Yeah, yeah, it's we need the talent or whatever, right? But these Mexicans, oh my goodness, they're the ones that's gonna come and take your jobs. And I mean, the insanity of someone running on immigration and running on closing up the border, openly telling his followers, "No, we need to bring these people in. I want to bring in more people," and then getting away with that, completely betraying the things that you ran on, and somehow the people that voted for you and supported you, somehow they let that slide. You got a couple of people that are like, "Oh, I don't know," but ultimately they don't care, right? They're perfectly happy being fed all these images of the ice raid. Look at the ice raid. Oh, Trump is doing. They don't have the perception of, are these ice raids even anything? When I say are they anything, for all you know, there were more ICE raids happening before Trump got elected than they are now. But now you're seeing it. That's the thing. People don't have the critical thinking ability to even recognize that. All we got to do is start showing you something. Like something could be happening right now. Like let's say, for example, right now in Chicago, on a nightly basis, they could be doing drug raids, right? They're raiding the drug dealers, whatever, and locking them up, right? On a nightly basis, right? But it's not on the news. And then some mayor could get elected and say, I'm going to crack down on drugs or whatever. And then he makes sure that it's on the news. Every night you're seeing these raids, and people are like, yeah, man, yeah, he's really cracking down. And people don't even have the thought process of like, wait a minute, what I'm actually seeing, is this something new? Or is this just something that you're showing me now as a distraction, right? So let's go look at these ice raids. They're getting those Mexicans out of here. Meanwhile, don't look over here. Come on in, H1B visas. Come in, come in. We're gonna pay you whatever we want to pay you. Otherwise, you go back to your country, right? And treat you like garbage. And that's the next thing I forgot to mention. I work for that company I work for that was all Indians. You had this Indian CEO bringing in his own people, treating them like slaves. I'm talking about my CEO threw his phone at one of my colleagues. Threw his phone at one of my colleagues, right? He would verbally abuse them on a regular basis. And when they finally were able to leave, I guess I don't know how the visa thing works, but I guess at some point they're able to leave. He would hunt them down and badmouth them to their bosses. And I got no problem with the H1B visa people. These are my colleagues. These have been great people, good people, um, hardworking. I got no issues with them. What I do have issues with is how they're being abused, right? If you're gonna bring them in, you should pay them and treat them with respect. So I got an issue with how they're being treated. And I got an issue with them taking my spot. And that's not on them. It's the government doing that. That's Elon Musk want to do that. That's Trump that's going to support bringing these people in to take my job. That's the reality, right? They want to play bullshit about somebody coming in to do the labor jobs that the voters don't want. They don't want those jobs, right? They're gonna pretend like, oh, they're taking your jobs, right? But the real jobs, right? That's actually paying money where you could survive and pay your rent. Those jobs are being taken by the H1B visa people, not the laborers coming from Mexico, man. That's a distraction, right? This guy was literally bringing in his own people, treating them like garbage, paying them garbage. I mean, I remember because I was at first I think I was like the only American in there. It was all these Indians, and I remember so many days like he would get mad, and then he would call him into his office. I sat right outside the CEO's office, and he would call him in there, and it was one of those things I felt like high school, where maybe the rest of the class is in trouble and you're not in trouble, and the whole like teacher pet type thing. Because I got along, I don't know why, maybe I don't know what that was about, but I got along with the CEO for some reason. Yeah, a lot of a lot of reasons why that might be the case, but he was cool with me. But that made it even more awkward because when all my colleagues are getting yelled at, all my colleagues who are H1B visa people getting yelled at, I'm sitting at my desk, and then they would come out with their heads down, and I felt guilty, man. I wanted to get yelled at. I'm just like, I mean, it's I don't know, psychology, whatever you call it, but it's like it felt uncomfortable, for them to be treated like that, and I'm just sitting there at my desk, um, you know, and this is what they want. This is what they want. They want to bring in these people, pay them dirt, treat them like dirt, right? And then they want to gas you up and focus on, oh, these Mexicans, oh, the Mexicans, Mexicans. Meanwhile, destroying the middle class, right? These are middle class jobs that you guys could have gotten where you could live a comfortable life, have your home, you have health care. These are jobs where you could live the American dream, and we're giving them away to people from other countries such that we can cut the costs, maximize profits, so we can produce more billionaires. And then those same billionaires are gonna come and tell us what we should do and how it should work. And yeah, it's the Mexicans, yeah, 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 right? Tell us about our culture. Oh, American culture is a culture is a problem. That's what it is, and we don't have enough smart people. Whatever, whatever. It's a scam, right? The same people telling you that are the same people who notice how you're not going to see Elon Musk or Donald Trump or any Republicans talking about making our schools better. They'll make it sound like they are when they talk about CRT and whatever, but notice even in that context, let's say you're talking about CRT, they, instead of teaching just the math, they teaching the CRT stuff. Notice that they won't say, let's remove the CRT stuff and then talk about what we need to put in there. I mean, they might talk about putting in some propaganda, America stuff in there, but they're not talking about, why is it that our kids are not doing trigonometry, or the levels of algebra that they're doing is not the right level, or the books are old, or we need new books. They never talk about or focus on in enhancing the education. They don't want to talk about making Americans more educated. They just want to distract with culture wars about CRT and this and that, and whatever, whatever. And oh, the children, oh, they're talking about the gay this and gay that. They don't want to talk about the math. How can the math be better? How can the science be better? How can we produce more educated people? Because it benefits them to keep you guys uneducated, right? Because that problem is the problem that they can use to say, well, that's why we need to bring in the H1B because you guys are just too dumb. Oh, really? I wonder why. I wonder why. Is it because you guys are focused on gay stuff and CRT? Oh, we gotta instead of focusing on the actual substance, instead of looking at what other countries that are passing us by educationally, what are they doing in their schools? What are they teaching their kids? How are they teaching their kids? How can we make, and this goes for the Democrats too. The Democrats' main position is opposition to the Republicans. The Republicans talk about CRT, whatever, and then Democrats are like, no, you shouldn't be banning books. But they are also not pushing for better math, better science, the way that people are being taught. Let's improve, let's get better teachers. They might talk about the salaries, which, increasing the salaries, you can get better teachers. But beyond that, neither party is really pushing to get us more educated, right? Because ultimately, they benefit from keeping us dumb. And the Republicans are uniquely savage in their attempt to use the problem that they are aggravating as a reason for why they need to give away our jobs to these people from other countries. The reason that they support a guy who was an illegal alien, Elon Musk, who is pushing to do an illegal alien, is telling us we need to get these illegals out the border from Mexico. But the H1B visa people, bring them in. Give away our middle class jobs, right? That's what he's saying. He's saying, listen, We need to protect the jobs for the poor. We want Americans picking fruits, right? We got to protect those jobs. But the jobs that actually pay money where you could buy a house, oh, no, no, no. Don't worry about that. You guys are too dumb. Let's bring in the H1B visa people. It is a scam. Lena is in the house. It seems to me to really highlight the difference between rich, elite racism and American labor aristocrat and racism. Besides the pointless show of military force at the border, pretty sure Trump's doing nothing new. It's sad, man. Like the border crossings got really, really low before Trump got elected. So Trump comes into office where the border is at a pretty decent state, but there was little recognition for how good the border had gotten. But now that he's in office, now we're gonna get full recognition, plus all the images. So people are gonna feel like things are better now, the border is secure. And this is why they just want to talk about CRT and they don't want to talk about the substance of our education. Because if students were better educated, and I'm actually a very unique person because although in my country our education is better, like we push for more critical thinking and we push our students to more understand the material rather than just like we just want you to pass a test and it's all about the grades. We actually want you to really understand the material. In America, it's not so much. But here's the unique thing. I actually my entire education is from the American schools, right? I actually didn't go to school in my own country. So even though I'm coming from a country with the better education, I didn't go to those schools. I went to the American schools, right? Um, Difference between me and my fellow students was just in my attitude, right? So I went to the same failing schools, but just me being a freak that I am and a nerd that I am, I went above and beyond. I was not limited by the curriculum that I was given, right? But you can't expect kids that to be the norm, right? I'm a weirdo, right? So that's how I operate. But you shouldn't expect kids to be, going above and beyond. School should be a thing where you go to school and you follow along with whatever the lessons are, and the result of that is that you're become highly educated. It shouldn't be on you to exceed. I mean, that's great if you do, but it shouldn't be on you to exceed what the school's putting out. Simply doing what the school requires should be good enough to make you, highly educated and a good critical thinker. You know what I mean? I mean, I remember. Let's just give examples of stuff that I would do. I gave you the example of the physics thing, but even from elementary school. In elementary school, just I was such a nerd, man. I'm just thinking about it. Such a weirdo. I'm in elementary school. Back in the day, we used to use these encyclopedias, um, and I always liked to go in the back. I was, I like we're on chapter 3, and I'm all the way in chapter 12, and I'm like, whoa, look at this stuff. Like, I don't know what was wrong with me, man. I don't know what's wrong with me, but that was me. Always going above and beyond. Um, so, when it came to the workforce, even though I went to the same failing schools, I had more knowledge than the people that I was competing with. And even when I compete with people that went to these big schools, big colleges, or universities, I still excelled just based on if you go to one of these universities and you get a solid education from that university, the problem is the stuff you're learning is outdated, right? The stuff they're learning, we in industries, we are the innovators, right? We are pushing the boundaries, right? And we need to push the boundary first for the universities to observe what we're doing to add to their curriculum to teach to the students. So when you're learning stuff in schools, you're learning stuff from the past, right? So when people my age were in college, I was already working, right? So I was ahead of them in terms of what was happening now versus they're learning stuff in the past. And then they come into the workforce. with a solid foundation. But then they settle in. It's kind of like I made it. I got good grades, and I came from Harvard, so like I'm the guy. Meanwhile, I'm already there. I'm already doing it. I already moved up the ladder. I'm doing good. I'm making good money, but I'm still hustling, right? Supposedly, and part of that is the fact that DEI is bullshit, right? Because I also felt vulnerability. I felt like I needed to work harder than everybody else. Um, that's just how I felt. So the idea of me just like settling and like I'm here now and I have the skills and I got a good resume. No, I always felt like I gotta grind and I gotta show my worth and show my value. Um, so I'll be next to a Harvard guy and know more than the Harvard guy, right? I mean, the Harvard guy, obviously, he's gonna probably know some stuff that I don't know from whatever you learned in college, but relevancy to the job, right? Because I'm always pushing and trying to learn more stuff, and I'm still in my books. He put his books down because it's like, okay, I'm here now. You know what I'm saying? So it's really about mindset. But anyway, not to get sidetracked. This whole DEI conversation is nonsense. They are not hiring people that are unqualified, generally speaking. Obviously, um, there's going to be people that do. No system is perfect, right? There's always going to be outliers, but in general, they're not looking. No company is looking to hire someone that's not qualified because it's going to hurt the business, right? Corporations are all about maximizing profit. It does not help their profits to bring on someone who's going to be a drag on the team, especially when you're doing stuff that is highly technical and highly skill oriented, as the work that I do, where if I mess up, I can cost the company millions of dollars in seconds, right? The stakes are very, very high. It would be very, very dangerous to hire me if I was not fully qualified, right? And it's the same thing people talk about, like Charlie Kirk with a pilot. As an airline, I'm not trying to hire some pilot that's not qualified. Do you understand the liability of a pilot that's not qualified and then he crashes and then you have 200 people that are dead and then the PR, I mean, that's a nightmare. They're not trying to hire someone, oh, because you're black. I notice they don't talk about the other DEI, right? They don't talk about women and not handicap, but people that are disabled who are also part of the DEI, right? Because the real truth about DEI is it's about race. It is a modern dog whistle. Instead of saying the N word, you say DEI. Notice every time they talk about DEI, it's somebody brown skin, right? Have you ever seen a pink skinned woman who is a mayor or whatever, and they're like, oh, she's probably DEI? Women are part of DEI. It's diversity is women, it's minorities, and it's also disabled. But you'll never see a pink skinned man who's a CEO of a company and there's an incident, and then they're like, oh, and the guy has a disability, and oh, DEI. No, every single time it's somebody that looks like me because that's the point. The point of DEI is to go after people like me because of my skin color and pretend like that's not what you're doing. Charlie Kirk even exposed himself. He was in that I forgot what show it was, and they were talking about DEI, and he appeared not to even be aware that DEI is not black people. And I'm just like, if you're so concerned about DEI and you don't even know that it's not a thing to bring on black people, like you don't know about the women, you don't know about the disabled, like that's what. Anyway, I'm gonna end the live stream because I gotta deal with my bird flu, whatever the hell I got going on. I'll just end on this note. It's nonsense. The DEI narrative, it's nonsense. The H1B visa narrative, it's nonsense. It's all a scam. We Americans are being scammed. We're being hustled. We're being lied to. We're being manipulated. Um, I think it's important that if I am to leave uh, a tip, especially to conservatives listening, if you see Republicans and very wealthy influencers focus on a particular topic, talking about something all the time, ask yourself, what are they not talking about? Right? Be very wary of distractions. The type of things that you're going to hear a lot of Republicans talking about posting on their social media keep in mind, they're not going to talk about things they don't want to talk about. They're talking about that stuff because they want to. They want you to focus on those things. So ask yourself, what are they not talking about? They want to talk about the Mexicans? Okay, let's talk about the H1B visa program and what's really happening, right? Fuck the whole, oh, the Mexicans and oh, they're coming in and taking that. Okay, fine, whatever. Maybe that's true. But let's talk about this H1B visa thing. What's really going on? Don't let them set the narrative and make you focus on what they want you to focus on. Think of them as magicians. If they if they moving their left hand around and they have some colorful scarf on that side, look at the other hand. What's happening with the other hand, right? All right, guys. Oh my goodness.